Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the this is our fourth stream since yeah. It's our fourth stream
Fourth.
since the revival. I think after this one I'm probably gonna stop saying the revival. Because at this point at this
No, we have
point,
to go to 5. We have to go to 5.
yeah, we
Alex. We have to go to 5. 5's the number.
I hate the number 5.
I know you do because of D&D.
Yeah. Alright. We are the podcast guys. I'm Alex. This is John. Thank you for tuning in onto our weekly Saturday stream. Tonight we're going to be. This is going to be yet another D&D oriented stream. Tonight we're going to be mainly focusing on. Before we talked about stories, and perhaps for those of you that haven't actually taken the time to play D&D and stuff, maybe those stories kind of piqued your interest with how fucking crazy they can get. So tonight we're actually just going to be focusing on, as you can see, John has his camera set up here for a reason. Tonight we're actually going to be talking about if D&D is right for you, how to get into D&D, what you're going to need, what you should know, and then generally good tips for both DMs and players alike.
Yes.
So,
all that good jazz.
Yeah. So, I'd say we'll just give it a little introduction. So, how to know, or like if something about D&D's piqued your interest, I guess we should kind of say like what you should probably know, like what you're getting into. So, It's kind of different for every campaign, personally.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, here's from the, like, I played like 2 years, you've played like 4 or something.
But it's very quick to give a quick gist. It's a tabletop RPG game to play with your friends. Yeah. So it's fully imagine based, nothing to do with like screens or anything like that. All just dealing with dice, paper, and your imagination.
Alright, so I gotta check the. Sorry, everyone. Alright, but yeah, so it's gonna take. I'd say one thing you need to know is that one, you need to count.
You need to know how to do basic addition.
Yeah, you need to know how to count. You need to know how to write, and most importantly, you need to be. I would say you need to be kind of. I don't know if I'd use the word adaptive, but you kind of need to be willing to kind of open up, in my opinion, because
another thing that would help would be being creative.
Yeah,
creativity is a good thing with this game.
You need a big imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you don't need it, because maybe sometimes people kind of color the picture for you. But
yeah. It helps, and it will be more enjoyable if you have an imagination of your own.
Yeah. Definitely.
If you don't, you can play it, but it's going to be kind of bland.
Yeah. So, what you need to know about starting D&D. So, D&D, as we've described a little bit when we're talking about stories, is that there is a DM, which is the Dungeon Master. They're the ones that they make the story. They kind of guide the characters. They give a world for the characters to build on, and they give the backstory for the characters to expand. Nike, I want to get your perception on it. Do you think that story is built from the DM or story is built from the players?
Okay, so the story itself is built by the players, but the DM creates a rough estimate on what's going to happen. They create the world and like the people that they're going to meet, but that world and people that people are going to meet that they're supposed to meet, they could never meet those people or even go to certain locations that you thought they would, because you never know what your players are going to do, and you got to make sure that you're not the type of DM who's just like, oh nope, you're going here.
Yeah,
you want your players to be the one that decide what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because if not, then it's if you tell your players what to do, then it's no longer your guys' story. It's the DM's story.
I would say that the players make the story. I'd say the DM connects it, pretty much.
Basically.
I'd say the DM
or at least leads it.
Yeah, I'd say the DM connects the story to the world, but it's the players. The players choose to expand upon their stories. The DM also kind of has to give the players the opportunity. But it's ultimately it's in the end, because honestly, you could have a player out there that you're like, hey, I'm gonna build on your backstory, so the DM's gonna have like a grand moment, and then the player's just gonna be like, I don't care. You know, they could just say like, I don't really feel like going through all that. It's like, okay, why'd you make a backstory then? You know.
Yeah. The way that I describe D&D to friends is that there's the dungeon master who creates everything and kind of proposes it to the players, and the players react to the DM's kind of proposal, per se. So DM puts up a proposal, and the players are either like, yeah, I'm down for that, or they're like, no, I'm not down for that, and then something completely different happens.
Yeah. John has more experience in terms of DMing. I've recently started DMing, actually. We're doing a Discord campaign over the course of the quarantine. I've DM'd like once before, but that was a one shot. But I'm actually starting to get a feel for DMing.
You're very good at it.
I know. Even with having experience as a player, DMing is kind of it's a different playing field.
It's a different world, yeah. It's completely different. I'm at the opposite spectrum. I DM so much to when I'm a player, it's like, whoa, this is different for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not used to only being responsible for one person.
I feel like everyone that plays D&D, they either play as a player more, or they're a DM more. So I think either way,
usually there's a set DM.
Yeah, they're either gonna be more comfortable DMing, or they're gonna be more comfortable playing. I mean, as some balance. I guess some could balance, because they're like, oh, I DM a campaign while also playing in another one. But you can usually tell which one you enjoy more of, like at least by a little bit, because I like both. I love doing both, but I honestly think I love playing. I think I love playing.
I know that we're not really talking about actually like getting into playing for the first time, but I think I would like to open up and say, if you have the option to, I would recommend that everyone who plays D&D for the first time try being a player first. If you have someone who has played before, have them be the DM and you be player.
Yeah.
Because DMing is way harder than being a player, and it's kind of difficult to do for your first time.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, if you can, to be a player first. But obviously, if you have 5 guys who've never played it, or 5 people who have never played D&D before, someone needs to be the DM. So that can happen too. But I would suggest trying to be a player if you can.
Yeah. So, for you to find out, like, I would say, like, if you want to find out how to, like, get into D&D, it's kind of...
I got a great first reference.
It's kind of just more or less you just kind of... You just kind of are interested in it, obviously. So, definitely, like what Jordan said, I'd say go in as a player. But don't be afraid to kind of do a little bit of both. So when you're starting D&D, you're gonna need friends. Obviously, you don't want to play alone. Sadly,
you can't play alone.
You can be a DM and a player, but it's
there's no point.
There's no point. You just have to
go play a video game.
Yeah, you have to be so bored, or you have zero access to like any technology, so you have to make up a bunch of fake characters in your head.
Either that, or you just have no friends on your technology.
Yeah. So I recommend get friends, have a set DM, and then have a set player. So let's begin with talking about if you're interested in getting to DMing first. So, yeah, when I would say that This is actually kind of perfect that I've just recently started DMing, honestly, because it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You can talk about like in your experience, and I can talk about like since I've recently started DMing. But I have had experience as a player, so I kind of understand how certain things already work. Not everything, but I mean I understand how I understand how certain things work. So I kind of have a grasp on it. You know, when we're playing, you can tell that I still struggle with a little bit. But I think that's...
Yeah, but you're doing pretty good.
Thank you.
You're doing pretty good for your first time.
Yeah.
Before I guess we get into how to DM, I would like to point to a reference to how to get started. A great source for both DMs and players, because this is just a perfect way to start out. So if you have $20 in your pocket, or anyone's pocket, or you guys get into a group and get like $20 all set together, you can buy the D&D's made by the Wizards of the Coast 5th edition starter set, which comes with a set of dice, which you need. It comes with a pre-made adventure, so the DM has something to go completely off of, and the DM can see exactly how things should work in a story, and all sorts of stuff like that. And then there's also 4 pre-made characters in there, and so then you can just give your friends some sheets. And you can just start playing right out of the box.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to worry about, how do I make a character? And how do I be a DM? You can just go by the module that they give you.
Yeah.
And you can learn through that. And then later, after you're done with the pre-made adventure, you can then go on to
make your own.
Okay, I want to make my own. I want to make my own story now. I want to make my own characters. That's what I did. Me and my friend got together, and my friend bought that, and he introduced me to D&D through that set. Yeah. And it's a pretty decent module. It's not bad. It's not a bad one. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's not bad.
Yeah. But so I mean that'd be a nice little good starter. Now, when you start DMing personally, even when you're even if it's a pre-made starter set, you do realize that you're kind of open to do whatever, and that's probably the thing about the DM, is that you kind of can't turn into like an abusive DM. You have to the whole point of DMing is that you want people to enjoy what you're giving them. You don't want to be that one asshole DM that's like, oh well, you didn't do what I want, so I'm just gonna kill off your character. And again, when you die in D&D, you can't come back. So, I would say, when you're starting off as a DM, I would say look out for the players first. You always want to make sure that they're actually enjoying it. Because if they're not enjoying the story, and if they don't enjoy the world, you can still change it. But I mean, you can't like completely change it. Unless your players hate it so much that you're like, can we just do a different story? It's like, that happens. But I would say that if you're starting out DMing, you would need to actually you should look out for your players first, always making sure that they're satisfied with what they're playing, they're satisfied with what's going on, they're satisfied with the character, and they're satisfied with overall the world that they've been dropped into. So, I guess we should talk about before we actually talk about starting DMing, let's talk about actual, like, physical stuff you're gonna need. So, go ahead.
Okay. So, actual stuff you need. Okay. So, when it comes to that, I would recommend just dropping $20 at the beginning, just to get that first set. Because it's just a really nice, easy way to start. It can teach you exactly how to do it. And then you can learn how it works and that kind of stuff. From there, though, you should think about buying these books that they've made. Which these books will make it to where you can make characters, you can get resources for DMing, or know the monsters that are in this world. So then you can throw those in as a DM. Each of these books go for about $40. You're wanting 5th edition. if you're wanting the newest edition. But if you're wanting one that a lot of people also praise, 3.5 is a good edition also. But so each of these books go about for $40. Sometimes they're on sale. So if you're wanting it cheaper, then I would look for when it's on sale. But
do you have the books to show the? Oh, there it
yes,
is.
Yeah. So this is the player's handbook. This is the book that we'll be showing you for when it comes to actually making a character, which I have a sheet laid out on the side over here. This one is probably the most helpful. It also has a lot of rules in it. So if you're wanting to learn the rules of combat, the rules of spells, the rules of anything else, then refer to this book. This is the one that you'll want to refer to when it comes to spells, combat, how to role play, that kind of stuff.
And that's not only helpful for the DM, that's also important for them. I would say the players should get their own as well. Because
if each of you can't get your own, then you can do one. Just it's going to be kind of annoying to be sitting at the table passing it around to each person.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do one, but it's definitely better with a multiple. Yeah. And you can agree with this, Alex. At first, when we only had two, it was kind of like, okay, your turn to make a character. But now that we all have one, it's like, okay, you can make one at home and then show up.
Yeah. With it. That was a thing. I remember when we started Main Adventure, me and you had to keep giving me your book, and then one of our friends also brought one, and then he had to keep swapping it with another one, and then you didn't really need it. Oh yeah, and at one point we did. At that point we had 4 people.
Yeah. So, remember Club Adventure? I had to run around in robotics with one player's handbook.
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah. And it just took forever. It took like 2 weeks. Another great book. I would say that there's 2 books that you're required to have. This is one of them, and then the other one is that I think you should be required is the Monster Manual. This one will be what the DM definitely needs. This book is filled with tons of different creatures that you can use to throw in your adventure. Such as different creatures like the imp or other things like that, and it has all their stats located below their picture on what type of challenge rating they are, their strength, dex, con, all their stats, their moves, all sorts of stuff like that. So this is a must need for the DM because then you can easily see what creatures you want to put into your campaign and what would fit in your world. Because there's so many different creatures in here. There's like how many pages? There's 340 something pages, and it's all just filled with monsters and creatures that you can fight. It's also filled with a lot of the animals that a druid can turn into, because druids need animals to turn into. So there's a lot of different animals and that kind of stuff in the back of the book. Yeah. But these are the 2 books that I would say that you're required to have. The rest of them are all just ones that you want. And a lot of people say the Dungeon Master's Guide is required. Both me and you have looked at it, Alex.
It gives you a lot of good ideas, especially when you're trying to flesh out your story a little bit more. And it's I think there was one section in there when it's when is a good time to have your players engage in combat. What monsters are good for certain levels, but other than that, it's most of the book is kind of common sense. It's don't give your players too many overpowered items. It's no shit, because then they're gonna just destroy everything without any, Yeah.
Another thing about that book that I like that isn't in any other book is that book has sections dedicated to magic items. So it's very nice if you were I want to throw in a magic item, but I don't know what. I'm not very creative when it comes to magic items. You can just look in the book and be like, oh, I like that one, and plug it in. It's a nice resource book. That's basically what it is. Yeah. Now, another book I would recommend, but you don't have to have, would be this book right here.
It's gotta be Xanathar. There it is.
Yeah, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This one is an expansion to this book. So, if you're wanting more classes or subclasses for your classes, or more spells, or more anything, this book has a lot of stuff dealing with just straight up characters. So, right here we got different druid. subclasses. So this is the druid section, which adds like 3 different subclasses to the already. I think druid has 2. Is like 2 or something like that in like the normal book, but this adds like 3 extras. Yeah. So each class adds like 3 extra. Like this is the cleric one. There's 3 extra subclasses to pick from, and that kind of stuff like that. So this just is an expansion of the player's handbook, basically. So this is a good resource too, also.
Yeah. It's not really required, but
nowhere near required. It's nice though.
In DMing, if you're like, okay, I love DMing, I want to keep like making more adventures, or I really want to expand, then it's a great addition.
I would say it's more of a good addition for the players because, like I said, it's mostly filled with like expansions for like making a character.
Oh yeah, no. So when I made my monk, there was a bunch of extra stuff in there that I actually really liked. I think I even took something from it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think your subclass is from this.
What's my subclass?
I think the way it's like the sun
Soul Strike.
No, that's your move.
Wave the Sun Soul? I thought Wave the Sun Soul was in the normal book.
It might be. Let me check. I will check right now. I think
I took like Linguist or something where I know like 5 languages.
Yeah, that's in here. Oh, that's what it was. A whole bunch of feats are also in here. And feats
I think I took a feat or something because I'm like, oh shoot, I know like, it's like, oh, 5 languages and you gain like +2 charisma or something. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, yours is in here. You see, like, Way of the Sun Soul.
Oh, okay.
So yours is in this one right here.
Okay. Alright, so let's see. I personally, I don't have, I don't have this, but I know you do. If you're gonna play D&D physical, a DM screen is also that's also very nice. It's not necessarily like required, but
it keeps all your notes hidden.
Yeah.
And also, if you buy a nice one, a lot of them have tips on the inside. So like here, this section over here is how to use magic. Then this one is all the status effects of the different statuses, like being paralyzed, petrified, charmed, that kind of stuff like that. Then there's this. Then there's dice statistics over here, and then finally some cover statistics and sizes of monsters and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's filled with helpful information while you can have the screen up like that and hide your notes from other people.
Yeah.
From the players, so then they don't get the story ruined for them.
Yeah. And then you're gonna need a ton of dice. I wouldn't like. Yep. Like
just for fun.
One set isn't gonna be enough.
There you go.
Possibly, you probably don't need to get that many if you don't want, but I mean that's you're gonna want a lot of dice because especially when you get on later in the adventure, it's like, oh, this monster does like 4d8. It's like it's annoying to just roll it over and over and over and over again. So I say, I think honestly, as you go, you just pick up more dice, and dice is so cheap nowadays. It's like you can get a set for like 80 cents, $1, you know.
Yeah, I'm regretting mixing all my dice together.
What'd you do to keep them separate? Didn't you like make something like the
here's the glow in the dark set which goes in this bag. This is the metal set which holds all my metal dice, and then this one's the one that's all plastic. But now my metal dice are mixed in with my plastic ones. So I gotta combine everything while I talk.
Yeah.
It's gonna take me a while to clean up all these dice. But actually, see all these plastic ones? I got this at Barnes & Noble for $20, and that's all my plastic ones. The metal ones I bought separately. But at Barnes & Noble, I got all these plastic ones for $20.
Yeah.
Which is not bad for like 100 and something dice.
Yeah. I'd say another resource you're gonna need is obviously you're gonna need notebooks.
Books.
I'd say somewhere. Oh, in the back of the player's manual, there is a way for you to print out
character sheets.
So you would want access to a printer because it's actually
you can
legally copy and. You can legally copy them and make copies of them. They let you.
You can also go on to wizardsofthecoast.com, and they have the character sheets right there, and you can print them off that way also. So you don't need to have the books, but they're definitely very helpful.
So, now
I can't find my other metal dice.
Now, for those that really want to play D&D, as something that you probably noticed is this is all pretty pricey.
Yes.
Books are $40. Your average screen is probably going to be about $20. If
you buy a nice one, if you buy a cheap one like this, it's probably about like $5. I think you get a screen included with the Lost Minds of Phandelver pack I was talking about, the starter pack for $20.
Okay.
I think you get a screen in that. So.
Oh, okay. So what if you're on a budget? Say you can only really buy like the player's manual, or let's say like. Something that holds me back a little bit with buying certain things for D&D. Some people can go gung-ho and they'll buy so much D&D shit. And I love D&D, but the thing is that I don't know like how much I'm going to really play it later on in life. That's my only concern with buying so much D&D stuff, is that it's like, well, after like high school, it's like, and like, well, like, there's places at colleges that you can play with, but it's
Kettering University has a D&D club.
Yeah. So I mean, unless there's people at your school or something that want to play, it's like you never know. But yeah, so if you're on a budget, and let's say you can only afford like the player's handbook, I would say, let's see here, I would say. Get a cheap screen if you can. If you want a DM, just get a really cheap one.
Like I said, just buy the player's handbook and then buy the Lost Minds of Phandelver thing. You get a free story, you get a screen, you get dice. You basically get everything you need.
Yeah. So I mean, and then like
it's only $20 also.
But what you're not gonna get is that you're not gonna get a monster manual.
Well. Also, in the Lost Minds of Phandelver thing, you get like 4 or 5 pages of monsters in the back of the book, so that gives you at least a couple to get you started.
Yeah.
So it's better than nothing.
Yeah. But ironically, you wouldn't think it, because when you think of the stereotype of D&D of like, fat sweaty men like playing in a basement or something, you didn't think that this shit would be so expensive.
Yeah.
You didn't think it'd be so expensive, but it's fairly pricey. This stuff will cost you, if you're serious and you really want to go full D&D, it's gonna cost you a good penny, and probably on at least $100.
Yeah, and this is not to mention, this book before I bought it at $40 used to be $50. It says right there.
Yeah.
US dollars. So these books used to be even pricier, but then they went down in price a little bit.
Yeah. So those are all the physical things you're gonna need. I mean, we could talk about how, especially with the quarantine going on, how you can play it online.
Yes. So you can play D&D online. We have done this a couple times in a couple different campaigns. We use Discord because it's free. And it's easy. You have to do is
talk through it.
Yeah, you just talk through it. All you really need to do is just be able to talk to people.
Oh,
so you can.
I just realized you might also want to invest in a map.
Oh, I have a map to show actually.
Yeah. Okay. So here's, because when we're mentioning Discord, I'm like, okay, yeah, the biggest detriment to not only not being able to see people in person, act out the characters and such, is that you don't have a map.
This thing's amazing.
Yes,
and it doesn't look like anything, but this thing's amazing.
Yes,
you can.
It's literally.
You also need.
Go ahead.
You also need miniatures too if you're gonna use a map. But so you can draw any sort of combat scenario you got, and then you can just place your miniatures on the square like that. And let's say this is your character, Alex, just because why not? Sure. And then we have 2 enemies. I have the map at a weird angle right now also, so stuff's gonna probably fall. But this lays out the combat scenario to where I can draw
I'm
a
already
room.
screwed. They have advantage.
But
Owned.
so then you can draw like a room or like whatever. You can draw a river or whatever scenario they're in. They could be in a burning house for all I care. But so let's say, you know what? Let's just say burning house. Everything's on fire. Alex, you have to get out of the room as fast as you can, but these people are going to try and stop you.
Oh, I run. Okay, so they're 5. So the squares, we usually do 5 feet. So they're not necessarily in range of me because they're not like right up next to me. So I'm still. So are they blocking the door?
Yeah, let's say this is the door over here.
Okay.
If I had wait, I can grab markers very quick and draw this out. Okay, sorry, I grabbed the first marker I saw, and the first marker I saw was brown and yellow, so you're getting a yellow room. Right. Yellow's not showing up well. We're going to do brown instead. Let's say that's your room. Terribly drawn room. And I'm dropping miniatures, okay.
5 years.
There we go. Okay, simple basic square room that's on fire. So then let's say this is the door over here. There you go. Now you got an encounter. Just spice stuff up with. Burning room, so fire, that kind of stuff. That's a basic encounter. So then this map makes it... Yeah, you've already won. But this would be a basic encounter that you can do. So then your players can see what they can do, and then it could be like, okay, Alex, it's your turn. And you can be like, I want to move this way, and then I'm going to turn it like that, and I'm going to shoot I'm going to phase through the wall.
Fall off.
I'm going to phase through the wall.
I'm going to the 5th dimension, lads.
Mm-hmm. And then you can be like, I'm going to pull out my crossbow and shoot or something like that.
Yeah.
So that makes it easy to just visualize how you want to move and that kind of stuff like that. Map's very helpful.
I got an unnat 20.
Yeah, an unnat 20. Okay. Yeah. Their armor class is a 15, so you hit.
Hell yeah. What's that, D6? Or is that D8?
For a crossbow?
Yeah.
D8.
8 damage.
You kill it.
Hey!
Now you can leave the room.
What even were they?
Bandits.
Ah.
Okay. So, another map that you could do, because why not? Fun. Oh, where's it at? Correct, where did I put it? Talk, please, while I find this.
Talk.
Thank you.
Talk.
Yes, keep talking.
Talk.
Where's this map? I'll be very sad if I lost it. Where'd it go?
But that's something that if you're not able to play physically in person, so you will miss out on having a map like he just showed you. So you're not going to have any physical representation of encounters or talking with NPCs or performing an action. It's going to have to all be just kind of... when you're playing online, you have to explain exactly where they're going to be. There are websites available.
Roll20 is one of them that's free.
There are websites available to play, but everyone needs a computer, or like a decent computer, and they need to run really well, and because it's like connected. So it's a pretty rare scenario. But if you happen to have 5 separate people say they can't play because they're all off at they're in freaking different states or something.
Yeah.
You have to all get on at the same time. You have to have good working computers, and then doesn't one of you just make a room or something? One of you
guys can create a room and then have a map ready for your players. And
you have to draw the map.
Yeah. This is upsetting me greatly. Where'd it go? This was a gift from a friend, and now it's gone.
Oh, the hard one?
Yeah.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I just had it in my hand, and then I grabbed the other map because I was like, oh, the other map.
Did you set it under the table? Under the tray or something?
No, it's not underneath the tray. I don't know where it went.
By the box that we kicked?
No, it's not by the box that we kicked. I wonder where it went. This is greatly saddening. It has to be someplace in here, though.
Okay. So,
Okay, oh well. I'll find it later.
So, that's something that you'll miss out if you're playing online. Online overall isn't a bad experience. We do recommend that if you can, especially for your first campaign, definitely do it in person. You can't beat playing it in person. It's just, especially if
it's just way better in person.
Especially if you have such a fascinating group like ours.
Like
our group
ours
is very diverse. We got one that's kind of all about she's very prideful, and then one of them's kind of like a dumbass, but he's also really good. And then one of them's just.
Did you just talk about yourself being prideful?
Hey, I'm pretty prideful, man.
You were just like, she's prideful. I just expected you to say my character, but no, you were just like, she's pretty prideful.
I killed a green.
Don't want to brag at all. Don't want to brag, but you know. Oh, the green ice dragon? The green ice dragon. That's a story, though.
That would be the most. That was so uncomfortable.
We bullied you about that.
But anyway,
man.
So if you can play in person, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about. Let's say you're in this. Let's say you have this ideal setup. You got a screen. You got the books. You're ready to start your first campaign. Like, not starter. Like, let's say you're actually going to do like your first legitimate campaign.
Yes.
You have two options. One, you can find a pre-existing campaign and make it your own, pretty much. And that's completely you can do that. There's even books for that.
By the way, I actually found the map I was looking for, so I'm just going to show it real quick.
Oh my god.
So like that. There we go.
Yeah.
So there's that. I have another one, but this isn't the one I lost, but this is one of them that I found. So there's that. Frick. I knew it was going to happen sometime. I dropped my phone. There we go. Okay, continue with what you were saying.
Yeah. So, if you got this ideal setup, so you can take a pre-existing campaign and make it your own, which is actually kind of what we're doing with Maine.
Yes, it is. It's what I'm doing because I was getting tired of how it was going, and I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, it's like all combat.
So I changed it.
I was just much more role-playing based. So, or if you want, you can do like what I did my own route, kind of. I made a story from the ground up, and that can be very hard because first you have to think about what will this world look like, and that's a whole thing on its own. But knowing that you can make a whole world is really cool. So you can be like, oh, I want like a world based on like, oh, maybe it's like a giant snowland. Oh, maybe this world lets you, maybe you're on like the astral plane or something. Oh, maybe the whole point of the campaign is to traverse the abyss or something. It's like you can. There are so many different options. I do recommend that when you're going to make a campaign, go look up guides for it. At least look up, get ideas for it. Because making it on your own from your own memory, if you're really creative, I'm sure you can do it. But but I myself went out and I looked up a bunch of campaign ideas. And I'm like, all right. And then I made my own. But... So don't be afraid to look for help or something, but still make it your own. Make it your own campaign. It's not someone else's. It's not a book's campaign. It's your campaign. Make it however you want. That's the freedom of the DM. Is that you can change it simply because you believe that it'll work out better. You know?
Yeah.
So
we flat out ditched the whole second part of the module because in main adventure because I just didn't like it. I read the whole thing and I was like, I don't like this, so I just ditched it and I made my own thing.
Yeah.
So I used something and then until I didn't like it anymore, I'm like, I don't like this, and then I changed it fully.
Yeah. So let's say that. So when you're making a world, I would say that there are many things to take into account. I wish I could know how many I'm about to name, so I could say there are this many, but I'm just going to list them off. So, one, just like I said, make the world your own. Make sure that you know what this world is like. Make sure you know what this world has in it. Or, heck, I mean, a lot of it you're going to come up with along the way. But at least know, like, what this world is. What the atmosphere is like. Based on how you make your world, I would say know how you're going to incorporate your players into the world. I find that that's actually the hardest part of any campaign, at least from what I did. Do you remember when I was introducing us? I was having.
It's just introducing. Introducing is the hardest thing. Don't get stumped up by that. Don't get stumped up by introductions. Introductions is the hardest part of it. Once you get going, it's fine. But it's like getting the players to meet each other. Honestly. Yeah. Once you start playing, you'll be fine. Just because at first it's really rough. That's typical. Don't be like, oh, we've been playing for like 20 minutes now and it's still rough. I don't want to play anymore. Just keep going. You'll be fine. Yeah. Once the players know each other and meet each other, the rest kind of just falls in place.
They kind of just do their own thing. They kind of give themselves a reason.
Yeah. It's just getting them to bump into each other first.
This is kind of just a side thing, rather than like something that you like need to do to build a campaign. But I would say that as a DM, so you need to take criticism properly, because your players will say stuff about your campaign, and especially once I've been playing for a while, be like, well, wouldn't it be this? Like even for main adventure, even though like you've run it for so long and you have the most experience, we're still like, wait, that doesn't. It's like, wouldn't it be this instead? It's like that's mostly towards dice rolls, but sometimes it's like when it comes to characters and stuff, it's like, wait, that's not what they said. You know, it's like, oh wait, it's like that's not important or something. So take criticism, but also don't consider yourself a bad DM unless your players are like willing to, because clearly if your players are willing to say like, hey, in the last session I didn't really like this part, that doesn't mean that they hate the adventure. That just means that they were clearly enjoying it so much to the point to where if there was that when they realized that there was a part that disappointed them, they wanted to point it out so that they could keep enjoying the adventure. Your players are not going to, unless you're a shitty DM, like you're intentionally trying to kill your players or you're telling them what to do.
Unless you're one of the bad threes of either like railroader, rules lawyer, or what's another bad DM?
What, just the one that tries to kill people?
The show taker. The show taker. Yeah, there's plenty of bad DMs. There's the rules lawyer, there's the railroader, there's the show taker, there's the DM killer, there's so many bad DMs, but those are 5 great examples of just bad DM. The railroader is the person who's like, hey, players, you're not going to do what you want, you're going to do my story, and this is my story, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. The show taker is the DM that makes their own NPC, and it basically does everything for the players. Yeah. And then there's the DM killer, which just they go against their players and they kill their players. What was another one I said?
Was it
rules lawyer? Rules lawyer. They kind of just use the rules to kind of defend them. And rules lawyer can also be players. Also, they use the rules to either defend them or they manipulate the rules so that it works in their favor instead of other people's favor.
And funnily enough, with how freedom based D&D is, the rules are very important to D&D in my opinion, because I see it as because a lot of people, when you first play D&D, especially those that like are interested in it, they're like, oh well, you can kind of like do whatever. And you're shocked that your DM is like, oh, well, I'm not going to allow this. You're going to be like, well, why the hell not? The reason isn't I mean, unless you're like a rules lawyer, the reason usually isn't because it's my world, I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's usually a case of, I think it would be unrealistic for the setting. Game breaking. It would it would make you overpowered. It would not fit with the story. It would just in general, I just think that it wouldn't be a good fit.
a great funny example of this is we had a player. You were in this campaign, Alex. We had a player who was like, I want to intimidate time.
Yep.
Not only is that not possible, but if you could, that would be game breaking.
Yep.
So that's a great example.
You said
you
something
can't just do whatever
like,
you want.
you have to get like a 30.
Yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, go for it, but you have to get a natural 30 on a D20.
So.
Oh, here's another good tip for you DMs. Never say no. Or, well, you can say no, but try not to say no. Like, obviously, if your player is like, I want to roll to see if I can find the one-hit kill obliterator weapon that's been hidden here for years, you don't have to say yes to that. I mean, you can be like, well, no, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But, like, obviously, like, if your player's like, I want to do this really hard thing that's technically possible, but, it would be really hard to do. Don't tell them no. Let them do what they want. Yeah, you can give warnings. Like, one time, I had a player who, before I even described the room, was like, I want to walk in the middle of the room. I was like, are you sure you want to do that? I haven't even described the room yet.
You like, warn them. Go right in the middle, and then you're like, I've had enough of this shit. Go on. You run right into the middle of the room into a pool of lava.
Yeah, there was a pool of lava in the middle, and it wasn't something like, I'm just going to get revenge on this person because they keep walking into rooms without me describing them. This was like the third time this player's done this. And I was just over it. And even afterwards, I showed the players, I was like, hey guys, look at my map just so you know I didn't do that on purpose. There was a pool of lava in the middle.
Yeah. And
I showed you guys. I was like, I didn't make this on the spot just to get revenge. It was there. He did that himself. Yeah, he did that himself. So try not to tell your players no. Let them do what they want. Unless, of course, it's absolutely absurd. Like, they're like, I want to intimidate time. And even then, I was like, okay, sure, you can try. But you don't have to roll this.
It's basically next to impossible.
Yeah.
I believe... Yeah, I believe that everything in D&D there is a possibility, but for certain things, especially when it comes to stuff like imagine I've heard of this. Players are like, oh, I want to search specifically for like legendary items. It's like, okay. You don't know if it's legendary. You don't know if there's any. You don't even know if there's any items nearby. You don't know if you can even use it. You don't even know what it looks like. So how are you going to search for something you have no fucking idea what it is? And they're like, oh, I'm just going to search for it. It's like, no. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine. Roll Arcana, roll History, roll Perception, roll this and this and this. Oh, and you have to get, like, nat 20s on them. Because it's...
Okay, I do understand if they're like, I'm going to search for this legendary weapon.
If they know
and
what it is.
And I know it's here because, if they know where it is and what it is, then I understand. But if they're just like, I'm just going to search for this mythical weapon that I came up with off the top of my mind, and since I mentioned it, the DM has to create it in its story now, And it's like, okay, fine then. You can search for it, but go get a natural 40 or whatever.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not going to... It's not the DM being harsh, it's because he doesn't want to keep granting his players all these special things simply for the sake of it could break the game.
Yeah.
So if you're doing something like that, like, oh, I'm just gonna search for this, the DM is still gonna give you a chance, but it's like you do realize that if you were to get this, you would break the game, and then it would just be boring. Because then
and you can do something game breaking if it's a one shot. We've done that multiple times where I've given the players something broken on one shots. It's fun on a one shot, but think about every time you play. One player has this ability to where they're a Tarrasque god.
Yeah.
And they can do whatever they want. Imagine if we had that be a campaign, Alex.
Yeah.
To where you're just a Tarrasque god every single adventure.
You just take over the world.
You can do whatever you want.
And then just every session after that, be like, oh, how's the world doing? It's like, oh, I'm still controlling it.
Yeah, I'm still the leader. Time is still frozen.
Yep.
Zeus is still dead.
Thor and Zeus. Yeah, Zeus, not Thor. I killed them all. I took their throne.
Now what? I don't know.
I guess
my
go
Tarrasque
do
got drinks of
worldly
glass.
deeds. Oh shit! I want to
Go
take
do
over
fetch
the moon
quest.
next.
Do a fetch quest, Alex. Do fetch quest. Go get the bread.
Get that bread.
Yes. Okay. So, what else is there about DMs? Oh, make sure that you have I want my players to do these things, but be prepared to improvise at any second. Yeah. Your players could do anything at any point in time.
I would say expect the unexpected.
Set I think this is what they're going to do because I know my players because they're my friends.
But they might
But not. If it goes off the rails, if it goes off the rails, don't be like, but story.
Yeah, it'll be like, it's like, okay, I had like a big story build up. And something that you'll get to, like, the more and more you DM, even if your players take an unexpected turn, you're still like, oh, well, even if they go this way, I can eventually just kind of, like, have them come to, like, I can just kind of make up a place for them to go to, and then story stuff can happen there. It's like, eventually also, you get used to just kind of, like, fine. You get kind of used to, like, okay, it's like no matter what direction they go, I still want at least something interesting to happen. So even if they take an unexpected turn, I can still find a way to implement a story element. It is your world, after all. Don't forget that. It's your campaign. Yeah. I mean, I consider it everyone's campaign, but it is,
Yeah. Another thing is make sure that your players feel like their choices matter, and if they choose one thing over another, make sure if they try and do that other thing later on that they have a repercussion for it. Such as, for a good example, this would be like, okay, so main story plot, let's say that the main villain of this campaign is a lich and is trying to revive creatures, and on every May 27th at 9 p.m. the lich does this. Well, let's say the players do a side quest and show up a week later. You can't just be like, oh, by chance the lich also does it a week later after this date. So if they choose not to do it, they choose not to do it, and they have to have a repercussion for it. They can't just be like, oh, a week later? Okay, it's still here doing its thing.
Yeah. I would also say here's something that I want to implement is that I feel like everything you should say and all your actions do, they should have an impact. Not every single little thing. Not like, oh, I killed a goblin in the forest. It's like, okay, well, now all of a sudden there's like 30 goblins after you. You don't have to do anything like that. I mean, if there's anything where there is character interaction with an NPC or a town and between each other, have that have an impact on the story later on. Now, I know we're talking about like beginning DMs and stuff. This may sound complicated, but it flows naturally once you get into it. It's like, oh, I just made up this NPC. It's like, I'll just have him occur like at this point later on, and then like by that point, it's like he'll just kind of have he'll just be like more like this and stuff. It's like, when you have something happen. And then after the session, you can always just think like, oh, well, it would make sense if I just implemented a new story element in this part,
Yeah.
It eventually makes sense.
Yeah, it's not hard to do either, because a good example of this, which we talked a little bit a couple podcasts ago with our D&D stories, is Sai. When Sai's player left the campaign, I could have just said, okay, well, Sai's character's done for, nothing else to do. But I still implemented Sai into the story, and now he's an NPC that can be used, and the players hate him now.
and a big reason that happened is because we did suspect him of being a. Did we already say that he what he did?
Before he quit, you guys were like, I'm kind of suspicious of Sai's character. Yeah, he just keeps leaving, and it makes sense for my character too. It makes sense for my character to be suspicious because of this, and this.
He keeps
and
leaving,
the funny part about it,
and every single time he left, it was like, where were you? And it's like, nothing. Or like,
he always came back and he was like,
he was so suspicious about everything. So our characters were like, this guy seems really fishy nowadays. We're like, what's wrong with him? So it's like, it makes sense for later on when he ends up betraying us. It's like we fucking caught it. It's like we knew it.
Yeah.
We're like, we knew it when all that suspicious garbage was going on.
The funny thing is each of you individually came up to me as a DM and you were like, hey, just so you know, my character is very suspicious about Sai's character. Yeah, each of you guys came up to me individually, which was kind of funny because I thought you guys would have been like talking about it in a group, but even when I asked you guys were like, no, I just came up to that conclusion by myself. Yeah. It was like, okay. So it was just kind of funny to me.
So, we should move on to playing a little bit, but let's just recap. So, hopefully going over like everything that you need and talking a little bit about what you should do. Just know that when you start a campaign, be confident about it. Make it your world. Implement backstories into the main story. And when it comes to the backstories, if you don't end up like emphasizing them a whole lot, especially for your first campaign, don't feel too bad, honestly. Because I feel like that's something that's kind of like, eventually you're like, oh well, this is important. I need to do this. So don't feel bad for mistakes you make. Just simply, if you have your campaign, when you make your world, when you make your story, when you have your characters, introduce them. Have a main goal for them that you think is good, and introduce ways to get them towards that goal. Like in my recent campaign, or in our recent campaign, in the first session, I gave my players a reason to go towards like a big capital cities that I had like a knight come in. And yeah. he kind of talked to you guys about like reasons to help out Majiro, which is the name of the country. I had a knight come in. They were all in a town called Sunrock. I had a knight come in, and I gave them a reason to want to go towards the capital of another nation. You have to give your players. This is probably something we also should have emphasized on. Give your players a reason for coming together. That is actually really
give them
hard.
a reason, but don't decide it for them.
Yes.
So give them something, and then they can decide for themselves.
Have something where they can all get involved together, like they all come together, and then let them decide from there. Like, oh, maybe there's a skirmish in town. Oh, maybe there's some sort of like weird noise, or oh, maybe they see something outside the tavern, and it's like one of them goes over there, and then another one's like, yeah, I'm gonna go over there as well. It's like, because that person looks suspicious or something. Stop. I see you with the finger below it caressing, like, ooh. 2-6. What are you doing?
No, I'm just creating things. So before it was funny demon number.
Wait, can you make funny sex number, please?
Oh yeah, I'll have to get a different dice.
No, you can just flip the 6 upside down.
It has lines. Oh wait, this one's fine. That one doesn't have a line.
Yeah.
Right. I also made funny Podcastguyz. If you looked very carefully, it's very hard with D6s, but we're so much. Okay.
So
I have players set up here.
DM, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
which we're not going to make a character just yet, but I have character stuff right here. So when we do get to that, and sorry, continue.
So I mean, I would say that those are kind of just the main things that you need to know. Everything kind of flows naturally. Make a story, make it your world, give your players a reason, or at least try to encourage them, or at least try to give them a reason to go towards the main story, and just kind of go from there. Understand. I think a harder part, honestly, is one, obviously getting them together, introducing them, and then I would also say, make sure you don't kill them. Yeah,
try not to. I mean, don't just be like, oh,
It's like, oh well, there's 3 of
Don't
you.
you-
You guys can take on a horde of fucking like 10 beholders. It's like no, they cannot.
Yeah, don't try and kill them, but at the same time, if they die, don't be like me. My very first couple times DMing and being like, "Oh,
It's my
you're alive.
fault.
It's fine. It's fine. It's my fault." You know, try and just be like, "Oh, sorry, you died.
Yeah.
That sucks," and then just kind of move on.
Yeah. So there's a lot for the DM, but now we can transition into talking about being a player. I'll start off by saying that a player, dead honest, is a lot less work.
It is.
It's not.
And this is all technically you need here is a set of dice. I mean, obviously, player's handbook, so you can make a character. But besides for that, you need a set of dice consisting of a D20, a D12, 2D10, so you can make a D100, a D8, D6, and a D4. That's all you need. You need those 7 dice, and then you are good. The more dice, the better, as we talked about earlier, but you don't need them. You'll just be sitting here for a long time. Okay, I got to roll 5 D4s. Okay, 1, 2, and then so on. You know. So, should we make a character first, or should we talk about how to be a good player first?
I say that we talk about how to be a good player, first. Personally.
Okay.
So, actually, you know what? You're not gonna know how to be a good player if you don't have a character first. So, we should probably actually talk about making a character.
Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to ask is how many viewers do we have right now?
We have 2.
2. Okay.
Hello, 2 viewers.
I was gonna suggest, should we have them help us make a character, but then I don't know if 2 is enough. unless they're consistently responding.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys wanna, if you guys
wanna help us make a character,
feel free to.
Yeah, just message something.
Yeah.
So first thing, we had to decide what we're gonna want to be, class-wise, race-wise, and name. Obviously, I'm just gonna write Podcastguyz for the player's name.
Yeah.
Because we are the Podcastguyz. So there we have our player name written right there. Okay, what class/race should we do? Using the player's handbook, they have a ton of different classes and races to do.
We don't need to do like. I mean, making a character can take a very long time, so I mean, we'll just kind of do like a short. We'll just kind of.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And
The only thing that I was really gonna. We're gonna show them class, race. Each one has their different stat buffs and all that kind of stuff like that. And then rolling for stats, and then money I was going to show also. But besides for that, that's about it.
Okay,
so we could just do it. We could just do a randomizer, honestly, and just be like, okay, how many races are there? Roll a dice. Okay. That's the race that we have.
I was thinking that me and you do like half and half. We just shoot them off. Okay, so like how about I pick a race, you pick a class.
Okay, sounds good. We'll make a really weird character too.
Yeah.
Do you know them off the top of your head? Race-wise?
I should.
Okay, good. So, just tell me whenever you're ready, any race you want.
We'll go with Tiefling.
Tiefling, okay. Cool.
Yes!
Yeah, I know it was going to happen eventually. Okay, so, you got to see my hand for a little bit. What is going on? There we go.
Be me. Make Tiefling Wizard. Make Tiefling Wizard. Have him die.
Okay, so we got our Tiefling, and then just to be weird, let's make our Tiefling a Barbarian.
Ooh, yeah, no, that is weird.
So we got Tiefling Barbarian. What do we want our name to be?
Ish von Vuch.
Okay, Ish von Vuk. And then I'm gonna put an asterisk because for some reason he has an asterisk in his name.
Hell yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. So next thing is we have to roll for stats. So to roll for stats, you're gonna need 4d6, or you can just take 1 and roll it repeatedly. And then we're gonna roll it, and then we're gonna add the 3 highest numbers and take out the lowest numbers. The past couple times I've made a character, I rolled terrible for stats. So we'll see how this goes. Wow, great start. Okay, so take out the 1, and we add these together.
13.
We got 13. That's our first one. And we're going to do this 6 times. Okay, so take out the 1 again. We have 11. We're doing great so far.
Here, you
so
roll
any
3. You roll 3. I'll roll 1. I have 1d6 on me.
Okay.
I got a 6.
Cool. So 6, 4. So we got 16.
16. Same thing.
Good stat.
I got a 6.
Oh, I got really good. Oh, we got a perfect 18.
Hey!
These we take out the 5. Our character's looking better now.
I got 3.
3, 4, 4. Okay, we got 11.
Oh, dear.
Okay, and then one more.
Come on, baby.
Frick, I rolled my dice on the ground. Okay, so 3 is taken out. 4, 8, 14. So we actually have a pretty good character. We have no negatives. Yeah. So negatives are when you have below 10, and then you have your average, which is like 10 and 11. That's like if you were just like a normal commoner. And then anything above 11 is you're either A, you're okay at it, you're good at it, or you're really good at it. So that's how it basically moves up. We have no negatives, so we're either average at everything or we're really good.
Yeah.
So since we're a barbarian, we're going to want our highest stat either in strength or con, because barbarians are all about strength and constitution.
Strength.
So, so you're wanting 18 in strength then. Okay. So 18 in strength. Let's put our 16 in con.
11 for dex. We don't need dex.
Okay, 11 for dex, you say? Yeah, we'll just each pick one. So now it's my turn. Okay, we're left with a 13, an 11, and a 14. We don't need intelligence either, so 11 in intelligence. Which leaves us with our last 2 stats, 13 and 14. Which one you want and which, Alex?
I say 13.
We have wisdom and charisma.
13 for wisdom.
So that leaves us with a 14 for charisma. And then if we look in our player's handbook for the modifiers that we get. Oh, tiefling, by the way. Tiefling, while I'm at here. 1 into our intelligence.
Plus 1 to our intelligence. By the way, tieflings are kind of like, they're like half demons.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we get plus 2 into charisma and plus 1 into intelligence because of our tiefling race. So this turns into a... Wait, no. Whoops. This is completely wrong. I did that wrong. Okay, so what was this originally? This was a 13. Plus 2 into charisma. So this turns into a 12. And this turns into a 16. So we're pretty good at talking with people, too. We're a barbarian that's good at strength, con, and we're good at talking to people.
Which is pretty good.
It is pretty good. We actually rolled pretty decently. It's surprising we got no negatives.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Each character usually has 1 on negatives. 1 negative, not negatives. They wouldn't make proper English. Okay, let's hear. So 18 plus 4. Dex is 11, so plus 0. 16 for con, so that is plus 3. Yeah, and then plus 1 for this for 12, plus 1 for 13, and then 16 is plus 3. So we have a really decent character, actually.
Yeah.
And what each of these numbers do for the modifier is we add those to our dice rolls. So for a great example of this would be like, okay, let's say Alex is DM and I'm a player. I'm playing Ishvan Vic. Or Vuck, or whatever. And Alex tells me, hey, a boulder is rolling down at you, roll a strength check. So I'm going to take my d20 and roll it. And be like, okay, I got 16. Then I add my 4 onto it, so that's on nat 20. So I'll be like, okay. So I got on nat 20, does that succeed?
Yep.
And then Alex would tell me what happens from there. So we can go over proficiencies also very quick. I know off the top of my head for saving throws, barbarians get strength and constitution. But it tells you right in the book, right underneath the barbarian class, but there's not really room and the camera isn't really showing well, so I'm not going to really get that out. And with your proficiency bonus, starting off you get a plus 2. So plus 6 for strength, plus 0 for dex, plus 5 because of the plus 2. Whatever ones are bubbled in, you're just adding a 2 to. So then intelligence is +1, wisdom +1, charisma +3. And then for barbarian, there's a small list that you can pick from for proficiencies also. Should I get that out, or should we just skip that? Because, I mean, I showed him proficiencies up here.
Yeah, I would just skip it, honestly.
Yeah. So you get more proficiencies here. Each of these are your skills. You got acrobatics, animal handling, arcana, all those different ones, perception, that kind of stuff. So these skills will be used for, like, rolling. So, Alex, give me a scenario where I would use, let's say, perception.
Let's say that you're in a grotto, and you say, "Hey, I want to search around." Let's say you're like, "Oh, let me search the like nearby like dirt mounds or like walls or something." Like, let's say I want to search the walls in this like cave or grotto or whatever. I'm like, "All right, roll perception."
18. Then I'm just gonna say plus our wisdom, so that's 1, so 19.
I'll be like, "All right, you find a lot of handprints that are kind of like streaked right across the wall. You can tell that they're going more inward towards the cave. There's some droplets of blood on them, and based on what you've seen previously, you can tell that these are the claws of a stalker beast. Something like that."
Okay. I gotcha. So, those are your skills for you. Up here, you have these 3 boxes. You have your armor class, which that's decided by our armor when we buy armor. Initiative is always based on your dex, so +0. Speed, since we're a tiefling, it's 30, which the speed is used on the map. So you know how earlier we were talking about the map and how each square is 5 feet?
Yep.
Well, this is how many squares you can move. So I can move 30, so 5 times 6. So I can move 6 squares.
When you're in, if you do online, that's the problem, is that there's not really a,
This doesn't matter if you play
really
online. This doesn't at all.
As long as I say that, like, it's up to the DM, like, "Oh yeah, no, you can make it over there in time." It's like,
yeah. It's all up to the DM, like, how DM will be like, "Okay, you're this close, so yes, you'd be able to make it." Or no, you would not be able to make it. Then for hit points, barbarians use a D12, so they use this dice for hit points. When you first start at level 1, you don't have to roll, but every other time you will roll or take half of a D12, which would be 6. So 12 plus our con, which is 3, then that would be 15. So we're starting off with 15 hit points, which is really good, actually. And then for our hit dice, it's a D12. Temporary hit points, DM will give those to you if you're doing something good. This is your box for your weapons, equipment, that kind of stuff. This box down here holds all your money in these little squares for copper, silver, lithium, gold, platinum, and then all your like items in here. Then here is your stuff that you can use. I already have stuff written here because this character sheet I just quickly erased stuff from. So this is still all here. For a barbarian, basically it's all weapons, all armor. Since we're a tiefling, we would speak infernal and we'd speak common. And then if we picked any tools to use, we would also write them down here. Our passive wisdom is 8 plus our proficiency bonus, so it's 10. Then plus our wisdom, so 11. Okay then. So all we have left to do now is do our abilities over here in this box, which it's really easy for barbarians. It's just rage. And then I think you also get unarmored defense. So then we don't have to buy armor, which it would just be 10 plus our dex, which is 0, plus our con. So our armor class would be 13 if we didn't buy armor, which I don't think we will, because barbarians don't start off with a lot of money. So we'll just take our 13. Next is money. I remember how much barbarians get. They get 2d4, and then they times it by 10. So we're going to roll our d4s. Do you want to roll one, Alex?
D4? Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I got a 4.
2.
So we got 60 gold pieces altogether. These 4 plus 2 is 6, and then times it by 10, so 60 gold pieces, which we can use to spend on whatever we want. Okay, so flip over to this, and this will probably be the last thing we show you when it comes to making a character, because the rest of the stuff is just like backstory, and then it spells if we were to use spells. So, but we don't, because we're a barbarian. So these are your armors. We don't need one, like I said, though, because we got an ability called Unarmored Defense. So we don't really need that. But here's weapons over here. As a barbarian, we can use any weapon we want. Alex, spit out a weapon. Any weapon.
Battle axe.
Battle axe, cool. So if we look at the battle axe, when I find it, where is it at? Okay, there it is. So it's 10 gold pieces. So that takes us down to 50. And we're going to write battle axe right here.
Yep.
And then our attack bonuses are 4 plus our proficiency bonus, so plus 6. And that's to see if we hit. So if we are going to attack something.
If you were to roll a d20, let's say the enemy has a armor class
got a 9.
16.
9 plus 6. 15, so we got a 15, so we miss.
You don't hit.
Yeah. And then for damage, we got a D8 plus our strength, so a D8 plus 4. So let's say if we did hit, then we would be like, okay, here's our D8. Roll it. 8 plus 4, so 12 damage.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Do we want any other weapons, Alex?
Nah, I mean, it's just... Other than weapons, you can just buy stuff like...
items, which we won't go through, but there's a whole bunch of items.
There's a whole lot, so I mean... But, I mean, this just...
No reason to go over
This is
it.
more just kind of a basic gist of how to make a character. Obviously, we would buy more weapons and stuff. Like, you could buy, like, hand axes or a crossbow or...
Yeah, and honestly, with what we did, we almost made a whole character. We just needed to pick our skills, a couple other weapons, and just items. And honestly, after backstory, we would actually have a character right now.
Yeah.
You'd be ready to play right now. Barbarian doesn't take a lot. Other classes take a lot more, because Barbarian only gets one ability to start off with, and doesn't have spells to worry about, and doesn't have a lot of money.
Magic, that's a whole nother... There's so many spells.
Oh, magic takes hours.
Spells.
There's so many spells.
So many.
It's not even funny.
So
I think it took me an hour or two just to pick my spells for my bard that I'm playing in your campaign.
Alright, so let's say that... So with this in mind, obviously the stuff that we didn't fill out was like bonds, flaws, personality traits, and what was the last one?
Flaws.
Yeah, flaws, bonds, personality traits...
Ideals.
So like what you think of the world and shit.
Yeah.
So you've made your character. Let's say you give it a backstory, just offhand. Like just say it's some sort of revenge story or something.
Something basic.
Yeah. Say it's like a revenge story. So now that you've made the character, you've given it a backstory and stuff. It is more in your DM's power when it comes to implementing your backstory into the world, since you don't necessarily know the world. You know you know your character, you know what their ideals are, you know what they're like, you know what they have, you know what their ideas are, but you don't really know the world you're in yet. So when it comes to implementing your backstory into the world itself, that's more up to the DM. So, tips that we can give to new players. I'd say don't argue.
Yeah, try not to argue. Keep it minimal.
You're gonna have feelings, especially when you play the game long enough. Eventually, you're gonna be like, wait, wouldn't you roll this? Like, we do that nonstop.
Yeah,
well,
honestly,
like, wait,
if you wanna, if you think it's something small, point it out. But if it's something big, talk to the DM after the session.
Yeah.
Even if it's about another player, don't even, like, you can bring it up to the other player, or you can just talk to the DM about it. Be like, hey, I didn't like how this went down. Yeah. And then you can try and fix it with the DM, or with the player that you have an issue with.
Yeah. 2, I would say don't. This is more like, this is exclusively for the player. Do not be afraid to really test anything. I'd say don't be afraid to try something out of the ordinary. You don't need to be typical and be like, oh, I just hit and oh, there's an NPC. Oh,
our barbarian. We don't just need to be like, okay, I get mad and then I hit.
Yeah, you can.
And I get mad and then I hit.
Give your character. Give them. a reason to get mad or give them something to fight for or something. Like you don't need to feel restricted. Like here's something that I like doing is that, especially what I like in combat is I love getting creative with the combat.
I like to punch the ceiling.
Exactly. I'm gonna punch.
I like to punch the ceiling. That was one of his grand schemes.
That's one of my first combat stories.
I can't wait to tell that story when we do. We'll eventually probably tell that one, but I can't wait to tell the story of the time that you're like, I want to punch the ceiling.
I got scolded at.
By both the DM and
yelled at.
By the DM.
It's a fun memory for some, not for all.
Yeah, you got bullied.
I got like, Alex? No, you guys wouldn't let that the fuck down. Good God, we were like, all right, we're calling it a session. Be like, hey, do you remember when Alex nearly fucking killed us? And I'm like, no. I'm like, it was a good idea.
It's 2 years later, and we still bring it up.
Still bring it up.
Same with the. Oh, it's a green ice dragon.
Yeah, and then in the one Discord adventure that didn't last long, the oil. I'm like, it was a good idea. And you guys are like, no, it fucking wasn't. I'm like, it was good.
Okay. Oh, I got another tip for players. Another tip is that. Just because you're a player doesn't mean the story's about you. Remember that there's other people at the table. Don't be the player that's like, I'm the star of this. Yeah. Make sure that you leave room for everyone else. Now, it doesn't mean like, okay, I did a lot last session, so I'm going to do nothing this session. That just means don't be like, okay, I want to roll every single check.
Oh, and honestly, if you're kind of more like the leader of a party too. Like, if you're kind of more like, you have, like, the best decisions. Like, we have someone in our party that's clearly the leader. But, I mean, he's also kind of, he's pretty stupid, but, I mean, he's pretty... No offense, you know exactly
what I'm talking about. No offense to Raiden.
You are the smart... He is hands down the leader. He is hands down the smartest. He does crazy shit, but he is hands down... very quick-witted, and he knows exactly what to do and exactly what to say. Maybe not all the time, no one does, but he's out of all of them. There's no problem with the idea of taking on like a leadership role, and there's no problem with trying to lead your party to what you believe is the best solution. But just because
it's just when you're being the star.
Yeah.
It's just being the star. Don't be the star. Be the leader / influencer. Not the person that's like, oh, this story's about me, not you guys. You guys are just here to help me.
Yeah.
You know?
You guys are... It's always going to be one cohesive unit. So, other things we can suggest to players. Oh, man, there's a lot.
Yeah. Don't be a role slayer. This is kind of goes hand in hand with the D&D thing, with the DM thing. But, like, you can also be a rules layer as a player, and it just leads to conflict.
My spell does 30 area radiant damage. It's like, yeah, you're in a crowded room. I don't care. It's like, no.
Yeah. I got another suggestion. Don't be the evil player in a good campaign. Please don't. It just aggravates everyone.
That's true. It's terrible. You don't...
Or vice versa. Don't be the one good player in the evil
campaign because that's just
be all one or the other. Or you can have like neutrals with a good or neutrals with an evil. Just don't have complete polar opposites again in the same group because it doesn't work. It just doesn't. People say, "Oh, it can work," but it never does.
Yeah.
It always ends up with one person dying, and then it's like, I don't want to play this character anymore, or I don't like this character anymore because it's like, well, don't pick an evil character for a good campaign, or don't pick a good character for an evil campaign. Just stick with what the rest of the group is doing, or close to what the other group is doing.
Yeah. I would also... I don't know if this is really a player-specific thing. I would say you should probably know what your DM is kind of like, in a way. And I think for the DM, you should kind of know what your players like. I mean, when you first start, you're not going to know right away. But you'll get a feel like what your DM kind of is. And that kind of leads into the first thing where it's like, don't argue. It's like, because if you kind of know what they're like as a DM, you're not going to run into as many issues when it comes to roles and stuff. You kind of be like, you'll get into the gist of it and be like, okay, I know what to roll. I know what to do.
Each DM has their own rules. So just know what DM you're playing with, what rules they have, what they like, what they don't like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I don't like the whole rule to where it's like, oh, it takes this many turns to take off a shield. And I've had a huge debacle with someone about this. Because it's like, okay, well, shouldn't I just be able to, like, slide it off in, like, a turn maybe or so? But then the person I was arguing with was like, no, it takes 2 turns, so you have to unstrap it, and each turn's 6 seconds. So it would take, like, 2 or 3 turns to take off, and it's like, oh, I just want to take off my shield just so then I can swing my sword.
Yeah.
That takes 2 hands. You know? Or, like, there's a whole bunch of rules to where, like, you can bump heads with people. You just kind of have to work it out and be like, okay, these are the rules that my DM uses. Either A, I can talk it out with them on why I think that the rule would be better like this, or I can be like, okay, I understand your rules and I'm going to follow them.
Yeah. Shoot, I had a good one. It's really.
Oh, sorry.
Shoot, it slipped my mind now. I can't think of another one while I'm thinking. I had a good one.
I had a good one. I guess another thing that contributes to it is, like, some DMs, I don't know why, I've never done this, but I've heard stories of a DM who's been like, oh, I don't like this race in my campaign, so make sure, like, everything that is fine with the DM. Some DMs don't like the new classes either, so it's like, don't pick, like, this class. You know, you have to respect what the DM says.
No. Yeah, no, I was thinking about that earlier. Shoot, that's right. Now, that's not the one that I was thinking of that I forgot. But yeah, that's right. When you're making a character, this goes to when you're making it. Honestly, don't be afraid to look up new classes in, like, Xanathar and, like, customizable classes that are on D&D Beyond and stuff.
Just make sure it's fine with your DM. Just double check.
Because
don't just be like,
some DMs don't
just be like, oh, it's gonna work.
Yeah, some DMs don't like stuff like blood hunters and artificers and stuff. Like, a big thing about artificers is that, I gotta bring this up. Artificers can make guns. They can have actual guns. I actually don't really mind guns. I mean, I think I know it's kind of funky because when you think of D&D, you're like, oh, you think of, like, swords and slaying dragons and stuff. It's like you don't think of guns.
Yeah.
But I mean, guns are those are a whole separate. So don't be afraid to get a little more. Don't be afraid to kind of look up stuff. Don't do stuff like, don't find some stupid overpowered class.
Vampire race where I can turn into mist and then I can do whatever I want. Remember Vampire? I can do whatever I want. Mist mode.
But to be fair, I mean, when we were playing, the player was very fair about it. Again, that's overpowered.
I know. We worked it out really easily, and there was no argument. But still, that was really dumb to be like, I can do whatever I want.
Vlad agreed.
In mist mode.
He's like, that's ridiculous. He's like, forget that. He's like, you can take that out. But
yeah, his mist mode literally said, I can do whatever I want. I can go through walls. I can't be hit. The only thing that really restricted you is you can't attack or interact with objects. But even then, it's like, oh, I'm about to die. I'm just going to sit in mist mode until the enemy goes away.
Yeah.
And there was no restriction on how long he could do it. It was just like, oh, you can do it however long you want.
Yeah. Shoot, I can't think of the one reason. It's probably going to come back to me when I'm, like, about to go to bed or something.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not really too hard to be with a player, honestly. As long as you just keep calm.
Yeah.
Get along with your DM, get along with the other players at the table, and just remember that this is our story. It's not yours, it's not the DM's, it's not the person across from yours, it's our story.
I remembered. This is...
Nice.
Okay,
cliche.
But now that I'm remembering, I'm like, okay, this is specific, but honestly, this is... Do not be afraid to actually embrace your character. And what I mean by that is that do not be afraid to talk in a certain way and like act in a certain way.
Oh, like my Tressa voice?
Exactly. Like if you have to make a female voice and it, and
oh my god.
Then you say my Tressa voice is horrendous.
Yeah. I kind of want to do it now again, but I'm not. There's no point right now. It's not story time.
Yeah.
It's not story time. There's no reason to do my Tressa voice.
Yeah. Oh. But don't be afraid to kind of like go full out with your character. And I'll say this, is that ironically, like the stereotype of D&D players being, I know this is much more like 90s and 80s and stuff. It doesn't apply as much.
Sweaty guys in basement eating Doritos.
It doesn't really apply as much today. But it's like, honestly, I feel like D&D is a great way to kind of express. I feel like I feel like D&D honestly helps with being more expressive and creative, and in general you kind of, especially when you're like trying to embrace your own character and kind of act with it, it can honestly really help you kind of go out of your shell a little bit. So I'm saying
therapeutic almost sometimes.
Yeah, don't
be to kind of just be someone else.
Yeah, don't be afraid to come out of your shell. Don't be afraid to embrace your character. Don't go extreme. Don't be the no
don't
offense.
LARP.
Don't be the one character. Don't be the one person that shows up in like a cloak to your friend's house in like rogue armor, and then when your character ends up dying, you enter like a month-long depression. You're like, I could have saved him. I could have protected him.
Oh. This reminds me, Alex. You remember when Newt's character was dying?
Oh my gosh, he actually started crying tears.
Oh my god, it was great.
It was impressive.
I mean, it was a role-playing
moment. It was
kind of
cringy. No offense to, I know you're watching. It was like it was kind of cheesy, but it was really good. It's really good. Not criticizing.
I mean, you were role-playing it too, though. You were role-playing it too, to be fair. It wasn't like you were sitting there like, "Oh, this is disgusting." You were.
Oh yeah,
it
no.
also.
But when he started crying tears, I remember being like, "Oh my god!" We're two men in a living room. We're crying.
Both of you guys.
What are you doing?
and then I have to stop you guys crying to be like, okay, Newt, roll a d20 for con.
I'm like, you're ruining. Then one of us turned around. We're like, you're ruining the moment.
Yeah, you were, and I was like, Newt, roll con. As you guys were laying on my couch, Newt's crying, and you're just like, I'll go get help, and Newt's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, no, it was
all crying.
Yeah, no,
I'll say this: Newt has the most emotion in our campaigns.
Oh yeah,
there's been like 2 or 3 times where he's almost cried, or either that, or he's teared up.
And it's
like, oh my god! Geez.
And even though it's kind of like you think about it, and like when you're in the moment, it's kind of cheesy. It's really.
But it adds to that immersion thing.
Yeah, no, it embraces the story so much more, and it kind of builds everyone up more, and it shows you how it kind of lets you enter that mindscape of, I'm not myself, I'm just my character, and it's like, this is like a real adventure. I mean, that's why we play video games and stuff like this, and we do it to escape reality.
The only thing that you got to remember is, I think that almost crying or fake crying or showing emotions is as far as you should go. You should not show up being that greasy neckbeard dressed as your character and be like, I'm a wizard.
Please don't enter like a month-long depression if your character dies.
Yeah, don't be like, oh, my life's over. My only reason for life was my character.
My character died, I must die as well.
Hangs yourself in the middle of the session. Oh, also don't be that guy who shows up with like an actual dagger and be like, I'm the rogue, I have to have the dagger.
I spent $2,000 on this authentic Japanese dagger. It's from the Shojin era. It's $2,000.
I even got my character's name engraved into it. And then,
it was another 500.
And then your character dies that session. And like, wow, I wasted my money
with said dagger.
While I wasted my money. Also another thing with Newt, his character was like, one time he was like he was like so emotional. He's like, the only way I can see us getting out of this is if I killed myself. And it was like,
and then we're like,
okay,
no.
okay,
We're like, no.
no, and he's like, that's the only way. And like, you guys were like, no,
no, I understand where his character is coming from completely, but I mean, we kind of
and him himself,
the
player, him himself and his player didn't actually think that, but he was role playing his character.
Yeah,
that's another big point. Is that when you're playing your character, don't play yourself. Be your character.
Yeah, separate yourself.
Do not be yourself.
Yeah.
You are not the same person as your character. You can have like similar like thoughts. Like you can think like your character. That's way easier to play your character that way.
Yeah.
But like have them have their own like traits. Like I normally, let's say I'm playing a depressing rogue for an example, like Newt. Then I can be like, well, I'm not normally depressing, but maybe I talk about suicide a lot as my rogue or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I talk about stabbing myself with my dagger in my free time. By the way, can we talk about the stereotype of rogues being edgy and only using daggers?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of them are edgy, though. Let's be honest. Also,
they're all the same.
Low off track, but just I noticed that thank you. I just like to say just thanks everyone for listening so far. We're probably gonna wrap it up soon here because I mean we pretty much we've covered pretty much everything, but.
I'm at the point of just rolling dice to roll dice.
We have 6 viewers currently, so just thank you all for tuning in to listen to us, at least even for a little bit. For those that stuck with us from the beginning, just again, anytime you jump in, even if it's only for like 10 minutes, we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you watching either me roll dice or Alex play one of the Popeyes games or Papa's games.
Yeah, or JavaScript Snake.
Or are you listening to us talk about the elusive bread quest?
Yeah.
I know we're very entertaining. Thank you. Please donate. We're poor. We have no money. We're just poor boys in the corona.
How did I get you? You're now jumping on the subscription train. I'm doing good. I'm getting a lot of influence on this.
For every donation, we'll earn more money to become better. And
we'll give you an acrylic pin for $5.
Oh, for every $5, we'll hand make you a character and send it to you in the mail.
If you like it or not, it doesn't matter. You took that gamble, buddy.
Have you ever wanted a gnome sorcerer?
Druid? You do now.
A gnome druid, yeah. With a -5 in strength and a -5 in intelligence. Well,
you do now.
It's coming your way right now. For $5 a day, you can have that. You can have that.
$60 a month.
You don't tell them that. Hey. Well, hey, if you think about it this way, it will teach you basic math so you can play D&D.
Yeah,
you have to do the math to figure out how much that is.
Start counting them stacks. Start counting your $5 bills and see how. Here's what you can do: subtract that money from your bank account. See how much you end up with.
Monthly. Calculate it.
Calculate if you can pay rent.
Then after you're done calculating if you can pay rent, now after you're done calculating that, how about you just send the remainder of the bank account? Then
you don't need a house.
You just need Podcastguyz.
Yeah,
talking about D&D,
rolling dice and telling you how to play D&D.
Yeah, all I'm doing is just rolling dice. I hope it's entertaining.
Yeah. In terms of more stuff to do as a player, I mean, I've said pretty much everything. Just overall, for a player, we showed you how to make it. You got skills. Don't be afraid to customize a little bit. Don't be afraid to kind of look around for newer classes and stuff. We showed you the basics on how to make it. Don't be afraid to embrace your character. Don't be afraid to
become one with your character.
Exactly. You want to become the basement dweller. Don't fight it.
You want to be the river troll.
Yeah. So,
if you want to be a good DM or whoever's hosting the event, bring snacks. It makes it better.
yeah,
Don't buy
Chex
expired soda. Don't buy expired soda and then give it to your friends
better than
when it's
soda.
when it's
5
5 years old. I usually bring Chex Mix. And then our friend who plays Newt, and our friend who plays Newt brings expired soda.
Yeah. He didn't even bring it since we were over at his house. He's like, "Hey, we got soda."
Yeah.
It's like, "All right, cool."
And then our friend who plays Raiden usually has food for us, but we usually eat before we show up. Somewhere the rude people who are like, "Oh, sorry, we're not hungry. We bought McDonald's chicken nuggets."
So don't be afraid to embrace your character. Make it however you want. I had enough about the soda, says one of our viewers. Okay,
you know we gotta. Who that is.
I'm sorry.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's great every time.
It's kind of funny too because I was literally bashing this player about it a couple hours ago because I was talking with him.
Oh my gosh.
I was literally bashing him about it a couple seconds ago. It was kind of funny.
Sorry, man, but
yeah, it's fine. He can deal with it. He's the one who gave it to us.
You're the one.
He's the one who gave it to him.
Nearly killed us.
I had a headache for a couple hours afterwards.
Yeah, no, I remember feeling like, ugh. I didn't want to eat anything. But anyway.
And it was off-brand soda. It was off-brand strawberry kiwi and cotton candy.
Oh yeah, the cotton candy Faygo was the worst.
I in general
don't like cotton candy Faygo. I'm gonna be honest. I in general don't like it.
I don't like cotton candy in general.
That's fair, honestly. Actually, I like normal cotton candy. Only 4.5 years old, says Hobbit over there.
I wonder who that is. Oh, you remember the soda that I hid at the player who plays Raiden's
house?
Yeah, it's just there someplace. It's gone. No one found it.
I think he did find it eventually.
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
If anyone found it, it was his dad.
Yeah. So for the player, just don't be afraid to embrace. Make sure that make sure that you cooperate with everyone. Don't overtake anything.
Oh, here, I got another thing. Yeah. Don't be that one player who keeps scrapping their sheet and just keeps creating a character till they try and create the best character. Because there are people out there who it's like, I'm just going to keep rolling my stats until I get the best stats, and I'm going to make sure that my character is way overpowered. Oh, it's good to have flaws. It's good to have flaws.
It adds to the tension.
Honestly. It adds to the tension, it adds to your character. Like, my character that I'm playing in your campaign right now can't read common.
Yeah.
He has an intelligence of -3, and I don't let that hinder my experience. I don't let that be like, oh man, I'm upset because I have very low intelligence and I can't read. It can
add to the comedy.
It adds to the comedy, yeah. Like the other players were just making fun of me last session because it's like, it says this, and they read it in like this tone where
like,
they're making fun of me.
He's like, this says common path.
Rich. Path.
Noble.
Oh yeah, noble. Yeah.
Bull. That was wonderful. Yeah. But
at first I asked what language. I was like, I don't know how to read this language, and the character was like, oh, it's common, and I was like, yeah, I know, but like, I can't read.
All right, well, for those that are still with us, pretty much. Again, we just went over stuff that you can get for D&D, stuff to embrace as a DM, deciding whether to be DM or whether to be a player, good options, things to keep in mind. We hope that through this podcast, that if you were considering D&D, or if you're at least interested in it, maybe this piqued your interest, maybe. And honestly, D&D may seem complicated to get into at first. I remember at first I was actually hesitant to play it.
You were very hesitant. You were the most hesitant to play it out of everyone I tried to get into it.
Yeah, because making a character takes a while, especially the first. I was making a cleric, and a cleric has to spells, and it's highly recommended.
Their domain.
They pick a religion.
They pick their subclass at the very first level. So like most classes pick at third level. Cleric is one of those very few towards like, hey, pick your subclass right from the get-go. And not to mention, Player's Handbook has like 7 different subclasses, and when you add Xanathars, that's an extra 3. So you have 11 to pick from, which is really nice versatile-wise, but when it comes to, hey, it's your first time playing D&D, make a character, and you have so many options because clerics are so versatile, not only in their spells, but in their just them themselves. Yeah. They're just so versatile. You can have a cleric that's fire-based. You can have a cleric that's necromancy-based. You can have a cleric that's based on healing. You can have a cleric that's based on anything, basically. Yeah. Even just talking. You can have a cleric based on making stuff. It's crazy. There's so many different clerics to pick from.
Yeah.
And your first character, don't get stressed out if your first character takes you 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 hours to make. Because you have to read a whole bunch. But after making your third or fourth character, it takes me about an hour or 2 now to make a character.
Yeah. So
it doesn't take me barely anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was hesitant because I saw it as like, oh, what if I make this character and then I don't even end up liking it? I know, like, the first time making a character, I know it's like you might seem a little hesitant to make it because you don't know if you're going to like it, but it's just... If you got at least a pretty level-headed DMer, even if you're all starting brand new, it's still kind of good to be in it together and just kind of learn together. Just give it a shot. If you don't like it, you can always drop it. Don't feel like it's an obligation. It's still a game, even though it's like, oh, we want a session like every other weekend. It's still a game. Don't worry. Don't treat it like it's an obligation. It's still a game. You're there to have fun. So, I hope that... Go ahead.
I have another great suggestion for DMs and players alike, because this is good for both of them. Have a session 0. This session is specifically made just to make characters. And why you would think, well, that's only good for the players, because then they can sit around and talk about their characters. But no, it's actually also good for the DM, because the DM doesn't later on have to ask, okay, what's your character about? The DM is there to hand-on experience exactly what each character is all about.
Yeah.
Which makes it really nice for the DM, because the DM can be like, oh, I know this character already because we had a session 0 where we all sat down and we made characters together.
Yeah. It helps everyone learn together in general, so I mean...
Yeah.
Well, we hope that through this podcast, maybe you guys learned a bit too, maybe it piqued your interest. For those of you that were already interested in it, maybe this gives you a little push. Honestly, go out, take the initiative, and go play the game. It's really fun. It's worth the time. It's worth the effort. It's really exciting. So,
sorry to keep bringing other things up, but some of you might be like, "Oh, I don't really have friends." Well, something you can do once we're out of quarantine is that there is a lot of different places that you can walk in with a player's handbook and a character and just play with random strangers. I know that doesn't sound too fun.
Yeah.
But if you're really into D&D, I would suggest maybe trying that, because there's plenty of places where you can walk in and just there's people like there, and it's like, okay, sit at a table, you're gonna play this adventure, and you'll just come back each week, and you will.
And it'll at least give you experience with the game.
Yeah, and they're not even strict about it. To where like if you miss one, they'll take you out for that session and put you right back in the next session.
Yeah.
You will miss sessions if you don't show up. If you don't show up, then you will miss story. But, I mean, at least it isn't like, oh, you're not allowed back.
Yeah. So, you got any final comments regarding D&D?
No, I think I've shared my little gist, I guess.
For everyone watching right now, thank you very much for tuning in. I think that just about wraps it up. We kind of just went over DMing and, players, and... We hope that, even during this quarantine, if any of you are still in quarantine, I know it's variant by state and variant by country and such. If you're no longer in quarantine, go out and give it a shot. Even if you're in quarantine, this can give you something to do. So we recommend it highly. It's really fun. You won't honestly, you're not going to regret it. So, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning into this 4th episode podcast, guys. We should let you guys know, next weekend we're not going to be having a podcast. As of right now, can we confirm that the beginning of every month?
Yeah, we'll probably end up taking a break at the beginning of every month. We might have a couple shifts, like let's say for a whole month we haven't had a chance to do it because school starts back up or something like that. We might end up doing it on the first. It's like, oh, we haven't got a chance, and we finally have a chance to, and it's the first. You might as well, do it. But if we are consistent throughout the month, we'll probably end up taking a break at the first weekend.
And we do apologize for. I do apologize. It's kind of on my end. I should have notified that we are. Like I said, it can kind of flip between Friday and Saturday. I didn't notify that it was today on Twitter or anything, so I apologize for that. But just know that it does have a tendency to flip between Friday and Saturday. We're most likely not gonna have 2 podcasts in a row unless we're really, really feeling it. We're
we haven't done it in a month.
Let's do 2 in a row. Let's just do 2 in a row. Why not? So
why not?
All right. Well. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Those that stayed from the very beginning and just popped in for a little bit. Thank you for listening to us ramble, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. We hope you guys very much enjoyed this podcast. Hope you guys have a fantastic night and even more fantastic week. This is Podcastguyz signing off.